I'm recording this just after the LA County DA made a big announcement about the Menendez brothers. He is going to oppose their move to get a new trial based on new evidence. The DA was skeptical of this new evidence showing alleged child abuse at the hands of Jose Menendez, and also really painted Eric and Lyle Menendez as monsters. That is essentially what he did during this press conference. Now, he said he wouldn't yet comment on what he's going to do next month when the Menendez brothers ask to be resentenced. If they are resentenced, that would open the door for their release. But what they have to show to the judge is that they have been rehabilitated and they no longer pose a danger to society. Mark Garagos and I have a podcast, the Two Angry Men podcast, and we just brought Eric and Lyle on the podcast to talk about their lives behind bars and whether they're rehabilitated. So take a listen to them and judge for yourself.
When I first came to prison, I wasn't just sentenced to prison. I was sentenced to prison to never see my brother again, to never have a hope for freedom, and to fend for myself in a very violent level 4, which is considered a maximum security prison, where I didn't know anyone, and I'm 600 miles away from any place that I'd ever really been to. So I was very alone, afraid, and prison was hard for me. I faced a lot of bullying and trauma. It was a dangerous environment, and fortunately, I had the love of a woman that came into my life and brought a little precious daughter, and I began to experience fatherhood and growth and begin to heal a lot of the self-hate and self-loathing that I dealt with all of my life. So when I came to prison, I didn't come to prison healed. I came to prison dealing with the traumatic wounds of my past, the tragic crime that resulted that I committed, and I had to face all of those truths, and somehow journey through that dark place of prison and try to figure out my traumas.
What specifically would you like to do if you get out? What are your goals?
Well, my first goal is to reconnect with a family and be with family. I have a wife that stood by me for 25 years, and she deserves me home, a daughter, and my extended family. So that's the first thing I want to do is try to bring about a lot of healing in our family through just me being home and sitting down and hugging and spending time with the people that I love.
By the way, could I interject? What a remarkable family you really have. I've spent so much time with them, and and when I say remarkable, that word probably doesn't do it justice, right?
I've been blessed, and Lyle has been blessed with an extraordinary family. And I have an elderly Aunt Terry and an elderly Aunt Joan, and I very much want to hold them free. I want to hug them and cry with them and be with them and spend quality time that I have left with them, and that's extremely important for me. The most important thing. What it is that I want to do in terms of my day-to-day life is much of what I'm doing in here. I started a hospice program in here, a life care and hospice, where we talk about growing older, the struggles that you have in dealing with disability and with life-limiting illnesses. I want to and fully intend to be working with that community, and I want to continue the AVP program, the Alternative to Violence program that we're doing in here. I want to do that out there. But the primary focus for me is the childhood trauma community. I want to be an advocate for people that are suffering in silence, and the letters that I get I get thousands of letters from people who describe horrific childhood trauma that they have endured, that they are ashamed to speak out of, and that's just got to end. I don't want to live in a world where people are hidden in the silence of their shame anymore. And there should be no reason that the victims of such tremendous childhood trauma are trapped in that shame and that silence that I was trapped in for decades.
Could you pass the phone to Lyle?
Yes, he's right. Harvey.
Hey, I'm really...
Little brother grew up pretty well, huh?
He clearly has a purpose if he gets out. What's yours? What's yours?
We have pretty much a shared purpose, in terms of the victims community. For decades, it's something that we've been involved with, and a lot of our joy, a lot of our grief is come from that community. So we have a phrase we call "speaking shame," and it's helping people find their voice in their trauma. I was the first person to testify in front of a national audience about male sexual abuse. I received a lot of ridicule in the 90s about it, but also a lot of support and a lot of victims reaching out, appreciating that, and finding their voice through mine. So that sort of inspired us to keep doing that. And we think that there's a hunger for that in the country. We would love to be part of that and heal in that way. The other passion I have is Green Space, the Green Space Project, and working with corrections to find ways to lower recidivism. Because Eric and I have spent 30 years with a life without sentence watching people parole and come right back, parole and come right back. It's a crisis in the country. It's creating more victims, as well as destroying the families of the inmates that have to come right back. And so corrections is looking for, Governor Newsom has an amazing initiative to change the culture of corrections. He calls it the California model. And one of them is this idea of finding a way to create community within the prison facility. So I founded a group with the idea of redesigning the entire prison facility so that it's like a college campus with trees and outside classrooms and wellness circles and areas where people could find community and start changing their life in a way to become a good neighbor.
I covered your trial, and a lot came out in the trial where a lot of people ended up saying, well, these are spoiled brats. They bought all this stuff and all that. And I listened to both you and Lyle now, and I just hear different people from what I remember covering that case. Do you feel that? I mean, do you feel an evolution? Because I'm hearing it, and having covered the trial, I feel like I'm talking to two completely different people.
I do. I grew up in an affluent home. I was a spoiled brat. I had deep insecurity issues and tried to hide those issues, and I was taught that you do it through the best clothes or the best car or whatever of those things that we now know is completely dysfunctional and frankly just a sign of internal pain.
I have one other question, and when you said it at the beginning 20 or 30 minutes ago, it really hit me. And I was thinking, you were behind bars as a very young man, and you talked about being mercilessly bullied. What happened to you?
I will say that I was picked on, bullied violently, and it was traumatic, and it was continual. And there's the things that a lot of inmates in prison go through, and when they're not part of a gang structure and they come in and they're basically lone wolf, they just have to be by themselves, and so it added a great deal. Prison can be hard, and there's a lot of suffering in prison. So and I wasn't I'm not going to fight back. I'm not going to engage, and I had no one to really to turn to for help, and I was separated from Lyle, and And I remember the day that I was told Lyle just got assaulted and got his jaw broken, and it was, I'm thinking, he's over there, I'm going through this over here, and at least we could protect each other maybe if we were together, but we were not even allowed to be together.
My personal opinion, prison has to have some element of redemption, even for people who are sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. In a way, I know that sounds like an oxymoron, but if you don't have redemption, you don't have hope. And if you don't have hope, what is prison going to look like for people who eventually do get out? Because the reality is they're probably going to commit new crimes and come back in because of the place prison is. If you create hope within prison walls, it's going to be safer for everybody to live. And in my opinion, the Menendez brothers have checked those boxes. So we will see what happens with the judge next month.